What if I told you that the idea of don't put all your eggs in one basket was bullshit, and I'm going to tell you why and where it actually came from in today's Finance Friday. Hey, welcome back to another Finance Friday. This is Jerry Fetta, CEO of Philanthro Wealth, and I want to give you today's Finance Friday training on, again, this book I'm reading. It's The Financial Misadventures of Mark Twain. Right, and I've been going over this series. I don't have the book next to me. It's up in my study area. I've been going through this series the last couple of weeks as I'm reading this book, and it was really interesting. As I went through this, we've talked about, a couple of the things I've learned, which is stick with your main thing. Right? Like, do the thing you're doing. Mark Twain was a great author, and because he got involved in trying to invent all this random stuff and start all these different businesses, he ended up going broke over it, right? And so the chapters that I read this week were really interesting because he's like getting involved in, he's got his publishing company, which he's trying to have someone else run for him. And then he's not really writing, right? And he's kind of this classic entrepreneurial thing. And sometimes you're not even entrepreneurs, but just people with jobs where it's like he has disdain for his main income source. Right? And so he's like, I want to do more interesting stuff. I want more exciting stuff. His books are paying him royalties. So he's got this interesting dynamic where he's written successful books. Those books pay him royalties every year or month or whatever it would be. And that's how he's living, is off the royalties. But he has disdain for the books. He's trying to do other things. And instead of being loyal to the thing that's taking care of him and saying that that's the income source, I'm going to continue to focus on that. I'm going to continue to create and make that stronger. Instead, he's still constantly looking for other business opportunities, other investments, and it's not going well, right? And I wanted to hit this because, we'll get into the eggs in the basket thing, but I feel like a lot of times I've even experienced this where, I'm like, I've got this thing happening in my business and that's the main thing we focus on, but it's boring and I've done it before. And so I'm going to focus on something different. And so one of the rules that I abide by with my finances: never give up income you have for income you don't have. Hey, you want to see a magic trick? Get a copy of my book, Blueprint to Financial Freedom. I know it's in front of my chest and my face because I want you focusing on the book and not me for a moment before you go back to focusing on me and the content. Right? So if I have something that's paying me, I am going to be loyal to that no matter what. I will never abandon that source of income, whether it's a job or whatever it might be, and I'm going to focus on that and keep it safe and strong. And I'm not ever going to trade that for something that doesn't yet pay me, the new idea, the new business, the speculative investment, the thing that doesn't actually make any money. Right? Because that's the thing that pays me. It's like the golden goose. It's laying your golden eggs. Don't get rid of it. Even if it craps on the floor sometimes and it makes a mess or it's loud or it drops feathers and you're like, this thing frustrates me. It doesn't matter. That is your bread and butter. Keep that income source safe. Okay, so it gets to the point where Mark Twain, he has his publishing company. It's not going well. He's losing money. He's in debt, right? And he's trying to raise money from investors. He's living in Europe now because in the time of this book, it was cheaper for him to live in Europe than it was for him to stay in the United States. And he was embarrassed with his financial situation. Right? Like, so many rules are being violated here. Number one, like, you should never be so embarrassed about your finances that you can't live in the area where you produce to make more money. Right? And so he was so concerned about his image, but here's the thing is, like, nobody knew this about it. It's not like they knew he wasn't doing well. So at the beginning of the book, he climbed his way up to this social status and he was very self-absorbed on being the socialite and, entertaining in his big home and fitting in with certain people. And that's what his whole game was. He wanted to be known. He wanted to be important. He wanted to be rich, right? He was desperate for that. So when he finally achieved it, he was willing to give up everything else, solvency, financial security, all of this stuff just to impress these people he's with, right? Now, for me, I can't relate to that part. Right? I'm one of those where I don't give a care about what anyone thinks of me. I'm not trying to impress anyone. So it's like, I'll do what I want to do because that's freedom. And Mark Twain didn't have freedom. if you are living your life based on what other people think, you don't have freedom, right? You're entrapped. Even if you're financially free and you're like, oh, I have all this money, great. You're not going to do what you want to do with it because you're so concerned about what other people think. So he's in this position where he's moved to Europe because it's cheaper, right? He's avoiding having to confront his failures over in the United States. He's avoiding, writing books. He's still not writing more good books, even though that's the thing that created his financial affluences in the first place. And so he goes to Chicago and he starts meeting with investors. He's trying to raise investment capital for his dying publishing company, right? And he meets with none other than Andrew Carnegie. Okay, you guys know I love Andrew Carnegie. And so this is great because I didn't realize that they had a meeting, but there is an old adage with finances that is, don't put all your eggs in one basket, right? And that's like the thing that people will tell you for like diversification. And it's one of these like social sound bites that people hear it and it's just like, oh yeah, you're right. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Guys, this is not hens. This is not a farm. We're not doing eggs. Like, it has nothing to do with eggs. The thing that Mark Twain did is he sat down with Andrew Carnegie and he's like, he used, don't put all your eggs in one basket. He's like, Andrew, Mr. Carnegie, this is why you should invest in my publishing company. You're heavy in steel. You're heavy in these businesses and ventures you do. You're very concentrated in a few small spaces. And there's a lot of depth there for sure, but you should widen things out. You should diversify. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. This is what he told America's first billionaire, Andrew Carnegie. Okay, do you know what Mr. Carnegie's response was? Mr. Carnegie is famous for this quote. Put all of your eggs in one basket and then watch that basket. Right? And I thought this was really interesting that this was his response. This quote that we know him for was his response to Mark Twain. They're sitting down. I want you to envision the meeting. You're there and you see them. They're sitting down and Mr. Twain he's desperately trying to pitch his business idea. Right? He's losing money. He's in debt. He has a bank that's called loans on him that he can't afford to pay off, right? And so he's desperate. He's going in there with his financial emergency and he's trying to find an exit strategy and he sees someone with money. So he goes to the guy with the money, Mr. Carnegie, and he's trying to get him to invest, right? And at this point, it's like a startup. It's like Mark Twain does not have profit. He does not have a viable business. He does not have a book of clients. If things are not going well, he has debt, he has financial issues. And this is not an investment, it's more like a bailout. And this is something we can learn is oftentimes when you have an investment opportunity where the person is not doing well, and doing well is not meaning they have a nice house, they have a nice car, they dress well. Doing well means the business venture that they are offering you isn't doing well. It's not producing what it should produce in terms of deliverables. It doesn't have the revenue that it should have. It doesn't have profitability, right? These are things to look at. It's like, this is not a viable business. And I think that Andrew Carnegie in that meeting could sense that. And so when Mark Twain told him, don't put all your eggs in one basket, his retort back was, that is false. It's not a true statement. He busts the myth right there in front of Mark Twain. He says, that's not a true statement. That's false. That's not actually how it works. Right? America's first billionaire is telling us, don't put all your eggs in one basket isn't real. Right? He is not a middle-class broke financial advisor. Right? He's America's first billionaire. He's the father of modern day philanthropy. And he's saying, put all of your eggs in one basket. And then watch that basket. Okay, now I want to share with you why most people don't do this. Okay, and this is really important because the whole thing about this is if I put all my eggs in one basket, right, he's saying you then have responsibility for that basket. Like what happens to that basket matters, right? So I can put, here's my eggs. Right? The eggs could be the zeros behind your net worth, right? Those are the little eggs there with the commas. Okay, and you could say, okay, I'm going to put all of these into one basket. Or I've got my eggs, and I'm going to put them in a bunch of different baskets. These are all my little baskets here. I want to talk about the mindset difference between these two on the whiteboard. If I were to put all of my eggs in one basket and then watch that basket, let me ask you, how passive and hands-off is that strategy? For most people, I'm not talking about like a business magnate, like someone that's like, I'm Andrew Carnegie and I'm in the steel business. I know everything about steel, so it makes sense to invest in steel. I'm talking about the person who works a job and you save your income, or you have a business and you save your income and you're looking at what assets to put that into, okay? If I was gonna go all in on one basket, how much would I need to understand that basket? Okay, and if I didn't already possess that understanding, how much learning and time spent on study and observation would it take for me to be comfortable with putting all of my eggs in that one basket? Okay, my point is it's a lot. Like for me to say, okay, I'm gonna go all in on real estate. I need to be really comfortable with real estate. I need to understand real estate at such a high level. And here's the thing, most people don't want that with their finances. They don't want to have to study. They don't want to have to think. They don't want to have to be involved. They want to be completely irresponsible, yet reap all the benefits. And that's why we have the modern day financial advisor. It's for irresponsible people. For those who don't want to control their finances, for those who don't want to be responsible for their finances, for those who don't want to invest to get knowledge about finances. They just want to work their job and, buy the things they want and give the money to someone else and say, you deal with this, so I don't have to, and you better not lose any. Right? So by putting all the eggs in one basket, I'm saying, no, I'm going to understand the basket. I'm going to control that basket and make sure nothing happens to that basket. That's a different level of control, which is a different level of responsibility, which requires a different level of knowledge, which necessitates a different level of investment of time, money, and energy to gain that knowledge, to gain that certainty. And so Andrew Carnegie is telling Mark Twain, that's how wealth is built. Okay, you have matter and antimatter in the same meeting. Mark Twain, Andrew Carnegie. Andrew Carnegie is saying, I went deep. I found the thing that works. I got into the steel business and man, I went to town on that thing. And I only invest in that and maybe one or two other things. It's all in one basket. And then you got Mark Twain over here, Mr. ADD, who has no such experience in his entire business career. He wrote a couple of books and then he quits and tries the next thing. And then he quits and tries the next thing. And then he quits and tries the next thing. And the books are still paying him. It's not hard to figure out, like, where's the money coming from? Oh, it was the books. Good. What if we wrote more of those? What about that? Wouldn't that pay us a little bit more money? Instead of trying to figure out stuff that doesn't work? Right? So the speculator, the person who is wild ideas, bright-eyed, I want to try this, I want to try that, and they're not paying attention to the thing that is their basket. They're not watching their one basket. They end up with a bunch of baskets. And they have to make sense of that. So Mark Twain is telling the billionaire, Andrew Carnegie, like how to run his finances. He's advising him, oh, Mr. Carnegie, you really shouldn't put all your eggs in one basket. Right? And I guarantee you, Andrew Carnegie is like, dude, you have zero position to tell me what I should do with my finances. If I'm Mark Twain and I have a meeting with Andrew Carnegie and my finances are failing, my business is failing, my investments aren't doing well, nothing is panned out, I am not in that meeting to tell Andrew Carnegie what he should do with his money. I would take that meeting and say, look, here's where I'm at. This is the reality of my finances. What would you do in my position? I want to understand. Because you have better statistics than I do. You're more wealthy than I am. You're making a bigger positive impact than I am. You're happier than I am. How can I learn from you? Not how can I solicit money and try and give you advice from someone who's not even doing well financially. And I wanted to scope in on this today because I feel like this is the proverbial financial industry. Warren Buffett has this quote, right? about Wall Street's the only place that someone who drives a Rolls Royce gets advice from someone who took the subway. And in that meeting, Andrew Carnegie decided not to take advice from someone who rode the subway. Okay, so here's this diversification thing. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Number one, this is because of people who can't focus on one basket. The inability to focus on one thing will be the bane of your existence when it comes to wealth building or anything. Anything. Like life is repeating boring stuff over and over that works. Most people aren't successful not because it's hard, but because they don't have the attention span for it. They get bored too fast. They can't handle, like if you build a railroad, it's like you swing the hammer on the nail and then put down the next rail and then swing the hammer on the next nail and then put down the next rail and then swing the hammer on the next nail, and you do that for thousands of miles. And if the people who built the railroad didn't have attention span, we wouldn't have rail travel today. We wouldn't have the things we have, right? Michael Jordan wasn't like, let me try soccer. No, he was like, okay, you bounce the basketball and throw it in the hoop, and then you bounce the basketball some more and throw it in the hoop some more. So you have to focus. I want you to think about Mr. Carnegie, the focus of this man. The tunnel vision, no, that's not my thing. I'm maniacally centered in on what matters. And I ruthlessly don't care about anything else. Right? And I don't mean like don't care about your family or all some of this stuff that we'll add in like, oh, but you... No, I'm saying the income producing activities in your life that are going to help you build wealth, you need tunnel vision on those. And you need to protect your time and attention from anything else. Anything else, and say no to it all because this is the thing I'm doing. And if you go deep and narrow, you will have more success than if you go a mile wide, but only an inch deep. And that's what Mark Twain did, was a mile wide on all these different ideas, but only an inch deep on any of them. Okay, now here's the other thing that happens with diversification. Because most people lack the control over their finances, because most people lack responsibility, they don't want to be responsible for their finances, they don't want to have to understand their investments. Because most people lack that, they don't have the knowledge, they're not willing to study, they end up having this putting all your eggs in different baskets. Right? That's what ends up happening. So the financial pundit comes in and says, hey, you're risky. You get too much in real estate. You get too much in life insurance. You get too much in gold. You should spread that out a little bit. Right? And if you're not an Andrew Carnegie where you're like, no, I'm watching and controlling this one basket, you're going to fall for that. Next, I don't want to interrupt you too long. I just want to give you a free offer for my book, The Blueprint to Financial Freedom. If you go to jerryfetta.com/B2F promo, you can get the book now. I'm going to let you get back to the video. Imagine if Mark Twain did get the investment from Andrew Carnegie. I haven't finished the book yet, but on the chapter I'm on now, he just got introduced to one of John Rockefeller's associates who's going to convince him to file bankruptcy. Which means Andrew Carnegie would have been screwed. He would have lost his money. Okay, so if you already don't understand your finances, if you already don't understand your investments, if you already don't have responsibility and control over these, don't then go get 6 different asset classes and add to the confusion. Okay, if you're really not going to understand and invest the time and energy to gain the knowledge, then what you should do is you should just do the banking concept with life insurance and just pay your loans back and live off of the dividends. You can buy your cars, you can pay them off, you can buy your house, you can pay it off, you can self-finance all your stuff. You're at least free from the banks. You're building up this capital pool, and one day that will spit off dividend income and you can take money out of it and use that for passive income. And it requires zero understanding of any investing. Just the idea that instead of doing all the stuff with their bank, I do it with my own bank. Right? But if you have bigger dreams than that and you're like, no, I want to invest, I want to build wealth, I want to make a positive impact, I want to donate money, I want to travel, I want to this, I want to that, you're going to need to go to another level, which is going to mean you need to study. Okay, you need to study and you need to focus. So that's my Finance Friday today. I hope that this was valuable to you. If it was, like the video, comment below, let me know. Feel free to ask questions. Grab the book, by the way, if you've not done that, and I'll see you next week. Hey, this is Jerry Fetta here. I want to thank you for watching my video, watching my content. I hope you enjoyed it. If you would like to learn more about the blueprint to financial freedom and how you can achieve passive income that exceeds your savings, your expenses, your taxes, your generosity, and build wealth like the top 1%, I want to encourage you, grab a copy of my book, The Blueprint to Financial Freedom. You can go to jerryfetta.com/B2F promo, or you can click the link in the description of the video here. The copy is free. You cover your shipping. We'll send the book out to you, and we'll send you an email with a bunch of great bonus material also for free. Get the book, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you on my next content.